How do we deploy our firefighters? It's the question tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Anytime we get into this conversation about how many firefighters or how should they be used or how should they be deployed or how many shifts should exist within a fire department, it gets really murky for you, the viewer, the constituent, the voter, because you're not expert in this, right? And so I have still been scratching my head for years as to what the most efficient use of our taxpayer money / resources is in that particular conversation. We have had some controversies over the last few years, the city of Providence being one of them, where mayor decided to go ahead and change the platoon operation from 4 to 3, thinking he was going to save a whole boatload of money, working off a template that North Kingstown had used. But North Kingstown is a very different community. B, was able to do so in a gap between contracts. Meanwhile, in Providence, the firefighters, I think, rightly argued that he was renegotiating a current contract, and they finally beat the mayor down to the point where he had to cry uncle there. Now, the city of Warwick is in a situation where it is in a conversation, so to speak. And I'm not sure who's in the conversation. I know that my guests tonight are trying to create the conversation, and the town of East Greenwich is in the middle of the same kind of decision-making process as to whether to have 4 platoons, 3 platoons, and what's it mean, and what's the savings, and what's it all about. So tonight we're going to get into that right away. My guests are Ken Block, who ran for governor twice, has been doing some great watchdog work with his organization called Watchdog RI, and Rob Cote, who's just a plain old watchdog. We didn't want to put that under his chin, so he said, hey, listen, I'm just a PO'd taxpayer. So but Rob is more than that. He's been a guy who's been very diligent in watching what's happening in the city of Warwick, and also, with the car tax situation. He and I have been following that saga for a long, long time. But they've got numbers and concepts they want to bring to you, and so let's set the table with Walt Buteau's piece most recently on the latest conversation.
Many 4-platoon fire departments use 2 10-hour days followed by 2 14-hour days. 3-platoon departments generally call for a pattern of 24 hours on, then 48 off. Now a local study claims many Warwick firefighters are already working those longer shifts without the benefit to taxpayers. A year's worth of Warwick Fire Department data for firefighter vacation and sick time and shift changes was collected by city resident Rob Cote and then digitized for computer analysis by Warwick business owner Ken Block. The former gubernatorial candidate provided what he calls a fact sheet that states 219 Warwick firefighters worked 1,754 shifts of 24 hours or greater last fiscal year. 52 worked at least one 48-hour shift, 1 worked a 96-hour shift, or 4 straight days. Block claims the fire department already has the foundation of a 3-platoon system in place, but in this case, he says, staffing is about 25% higher than it should be, with the long shifts costing taxpayers millions in overtime.
Moving from the 4 platoons to the 3 platoons will ultimately save money, it's a smart thing to do, and it's safer for the firefighter.
In Providence, the 3-platoon system provoked about 100 firefighters to leave the department, many retiring early, according to union president Paul Dowdy. The system was scrapped, and the city eventually paid a $6 million legal settlement to their firefighters. Block is confident that would not happen in other Rhode Island communities that moved to 3 platoons, which he says are common across the country.
It is only controversial here. In most other places, firefighters already work 3 platoons.
Fire department contract negotiations are well underway in Warwick. No one from the city or the firefighters union has returned our requests for comment.
And that's the problem. We can't get a good debate, Ken Block, Rob Cote. We can't get a good debate on this because I can't get anybody. The only active voice on this conversation in the last few years is Paul Dowdy, the head of the firefighters union, who was in the trenches fighting all the way.
It's a different community in Providence. Warwick is a completely different community, so what applies in Providence doesn't
Well, Warwick's the second
necessarily-
largest city, but it no doubt has a cosmetic, cultural.
A lot less firefighters as well, a lot less equipment.
Huh?
A lot less firefighters, a lot less manpower.
And it's not nearly as urban.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
It's a big difference.
So Walt set the table pretty well. What's the story, Jerry? What's the mission here?
Well, so through a lot of hard work on Rob's part, he was able to get a year's worth of shift information regarding the Warwick firefighters who called out sick for an entire year. And we were able to take that data, digitize it, slice it and dice it, and look at it a lot of different ways. And what we're talking about today is what kind of shift schedules Warwick firefighters are actually working. You get 3 platoons, you get 4 platoons. What does that all mean? A platoon is basically a shift of firefighters. It's a group of firefighters who all come on at the same time. They work a specified length of time, then they all go off at the same time, and a new platoon comes in to take their place. Warwick has a shift schedule right now that requires 4 sets of firefighters to staff 7 by 24 by 365. So they could, without getting into the details of what the shift actually is, they work, well, I am going to get into it. They work 2 10-hour days in a row, then they work 2 14-hour days in a row, and then they take 4 days off. That's what the 4 platoon system looks like in most Rhode Island career fire departments. Most of the rest of the country uses a 3-shift fire system, a 3 platoon system, where the first group of firefighters comes in, works 24 hours straight, then they leave, the next group comes in and works 24 hours straight, and then the third group comes in after that and works 24 hours straight. So that system has 24 hours on and 48 hours off. Repeat, repeat, repeat. There is controversy, because the firefighters are making it controversial, on moving Rhode Island from 4 platoons to 3 platoons, when in reality a lot of the rest of the country is already doing it. Now, they have some good reasons for pushing back against it, mostly because, first of all, you need 25% more firefighters to staff 4 platoons than you do 3 platoons. So from a union perspective, you get more members, the more platoons that you have to have. More importantly, with the 4-shift versus 3-shift schedule, there's a lot more opportunity to drive overtime. And overtime is a problem that's pretty tough for a number of Rhode Island fire departments, including Warwick every year, where overtime often goes not only beyond $1 million, but can often go beyond $2 million.
And you did some data research on the overtime, right?
Yes, so since 2010, we've used in excess of $18.4 million in overtime. Every single year, the department is over budget on overtime. Every single year, the chief comes in and says, if we have more men, we'll eliminate the overtime. We'll not cut it down, we'll eliminate the overtime. So they get more men, and the overtime stays the same or even goes up.
Has that actually happened? A certain target for hiring was achieved and the overtime did not go away?
Well, for example, in 2014...
You have 200 and some odd firefighters.
220 is the full complement. In 2014, they got a $13.1 million grant from the federal government to bring on 24 firefighters. And they stated that that would eliminate the overtime, and it did nothing for the overtime. So you have to look at this, and you have to have this argument, at least from my point of view. This is a fiscal argument, right? So you're told every year that we're going to eliminate the overtime. Every year the overtime isn't eliminated, and every year the city council just says, well, you have to do it next year. And next year comes and it doesn't happen. So when you look at this, Dan, you have to look at the problem of management, right? For 20 years this has been taking place, and during that time, this department has no external oversight. There has never been an audit. There has never been any type of third-party investigation or audit. And bear in mind, the city's got $900 million worth of unfunded liabilities. The administrators of this department are brought up from within. It's attrition. They're not true administrators that are professionally trained administrators. They achieve that position through attrition, right? So if you were the CEO of a company and you had a department that was consistently over budget by millions of dollars, and your friends were the ones that every 18 months to 24 months rotated out and became the boss, and there was no change, financially, you know, being of sound financial principles, you would beg the question, why are we doing the same thing over? Let's get somebody else to do some oversight, look into this, find the problem. No matter what, it comes down to the fact that a community can only afford services at a certain level, whether it's fire services, trash pickup, or beach fees, whatever it may be. The city, the community, the residents can no longer afford this department. It's up every single year. We're not having more fires. The city's not getting any bigger. So what's the problem? So to solve that problem, we have a unique opportunity with a new administration and a contract that ran out to look and find an alternative method.
All right, what is the alternative method? We'll talk about it when we come back. Stay with us. The former mayor, now working for Ripter. And, you know, most people have reviewed Scott Abedisian as a, you know, a success story, maybe for longevity in the city of Warwick. Rob Cote, our Warwick Watchdog, disagrees, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. There's little benefit that you can see when pertaining to Scott Abedisian, and you look at the balance sheet of the city and how the unfunded liabilities have gone up. We have a decline in assets. We have increase in liabilities. We have increase in unfunded liabilities across the board.
It's a problem in most cities in Rhode Island, though. You know, the pension benefits are excruciatingly out of whack. The health care costs are excruciatingly out of whack.
Well, in
it's
Warwick,
not unique to Warwick.
We have $0 in the health care fund and presently a $310 million liability. $0 in that account.
So you're suggesting, as we're talking about the firefighter implementation here, that you've got a plan. You guys have a plan.
Yeah, so...
And you've got contract negotiations in the city of Warwick going on as we speak, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
So you're trying to create this public dialogue as a component of these negotiations.
Well, it's certainly something that needs to be looked
You're trying
at.
to force who? The city council? The new mayor? Is the new interim mayor? Is he acting, Mr. Solomon? Is he an acting or interim?
Interim mayor.
Interim until this fall.
That's
correct.
correct.
And I'm sure he's running again.
Yes.
Have you had conversations with him about what you've found in terms of the continuous overtime? I mean, he's been sitting on the council for a long time. He should not be unwitting to this, correct?
Oh, I'm sure he's heard the rumblings of at least taking some time to look at an alternate plan. And let's understand what we're saying. What we're saying is you have an opportunity now to look at an alternate plan. And in the absence of doing that would be, in my opinion, complete incompetence. Seeing as the way we've been going down the road every year with overtime just going through the roof, now you have the opportunity to sit down, disseminate what is actually taking place in the department, and come up with a solution. That's why we have city council members.
All right, so in simple terms, what do you think the city of Warwick and maybe other communities should do?
So in the simplest term, if the city decided to go from 4 platoons to 3 platoons, without reducing staff, they could eliminate overtime because they'd have many more firefighters around than they actually had shifts to fill by doing that. And they could do that comfortably, knowing that 70% of the fire departments across the country operate that way, and most importantly, every single Warwick firefighter last year worked at least one 24-hour shift already. So it's the idea of working 24-hour shifts is not foreign to fire departments in general, and not to Warwick firefighters.
Have we done a
either.
sleep analysis? I mean, I don't know if you would call it that, but a 24-hour shift includes sleep.
Oftentimes it does. Now, I would say that there are certainly some shifts on some particular pieces of equipment that don't get that. In Providence, for example, certain Providence rescues run all the time. In Warwick, for sure, there are a good number of shifts where an entire fire station may not get a call at night.
And bear in mind,
Sure.
the ladder trucks don't move unless there's a fire.
They don't move
Unless there's a fire.
Okay.
And you have 3 ladder trucks in the city. There's 6 men that are manned throughout the city.
So when you say 24 hours, I mean, I'm sure people who really don't pay much attention to this immediately say, wait a second, that's a long time to be on the job. I want a firefighter to be, on his or her tippy toes with all the energy.
So what's important is in the data that we dug out, 25%, just about 25% of Warwick firefighters worked at least, this is voluntarily, one 48-hour shift. 7 Warwick firefighters worked at least one 60-plus hour shift, and 1 Warwick firefighter worked a 96-hour shift, which is 4 days straight. They're all sleeping. They have to sleep. Nobody could possibly do that unless you were sleeping. So,
but they're taking on they're taking on what? Requested fill-ins, if that's the case. If they're
either working overtime or they're filling in for a coworker who asked them to fill in, that sort of thing.
And I know that you're still working on some analysis as to how that whole thing comes down.
Correct.
You're not real excited about what? The legitimacy of how that whole thing works out?
We're going to be able to show with data that a good number of overtime shifts are being generated. In other words, they're not overtime shifts because somebody was out sick genuinely. These shifts were generated through other means, and it's one of the things that drives the overtime. There's some games happening.
Okay, so I'm guessing that you're still working on that data?
We're very close to bringing that out.
Okay, so here's the question I have. The Providence situation was such that when the move from 4 platoons to 3 platoons was presented, it was a difference in hours that came along with it significantly. So it was a low 40s per week hourly mandate to, I believe it was 54 or 56 hours a week that came with the 24-hour shifts. Same thing here? You'd be moving firefighters to an additional 10, 12 hours per week on the job?
On the job, probably tucked into bed, but on the job, yes.
On the job, but
Yep.
on the job.
Mm-hmm.
But and maybe not sleeping soundly, but on the job. Do you consider compensation for that increase in hours?
That's certainly something that could and should be negotiated between the union and the community.
Will it end up just replicating the kind of overtime costs that you've been studying and worrying about?
No.
No, absolutely not.
Because
you're going to be fully covered. You have more men to cover the same amount of shifts.
But if nobody loses their job, and you've got to negotiate raises for the current complement of 200 some odd firefighters, that's a built-in increase in expense, is it not?
Well, it depends. It depends what gets negotiated. If the suggestion is that the hours from 42 or whatever it is to 56 should all be a time and a half, I would be shocked that any community anywhere decided that that was a good deal.
Yeah,
that's a terrible deal.
It's not what Providence ended up with in terms of what their settlement issues were. So, and I think there's a legitimate argument for the quality of hours.
Yeah.
Are they definitely on the road in an engine, or are they in the rack? I mean, so I think those are some. But if you're responsible for responding to an alarm for 56 hours during a week versus 42 hours a week, there's got to be compensatory changes for that.
There should be. On the other hand, if there is in fact monkey business happening within the department and potentially ill-gotten gains coming from the taxpayers due to said monkey business, there's an ability to say, you know what, we're going to cut that out, we're going to do this, and we're going to make this right moving forward. So it's not a binary conversation.
Well, when you're ready to talk specifically about the monkey business, we can really dig into that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just on concept, it seems to me that somewhere along the line there's got to be an analysis. Have you done that analysis as to what the move to 3 shifts actually costs in terms of increased expense?
Maybe not to the dollar, Dan, but and the simple fact of that is because, as Ken said, there's a lot of different aspects that need to be negotiated. But you have to remember the taxpayer is never included in the negotiation. It's the fire department, the mayor, and the mayor's legal staff. So we have no seat at the table. And
the council doesn't participate.
The council has no participation in it whatsoever. They get handed the contracts maybe 48 hours prior to the budget
and they're
hearings.
expected to review, deliberate, and ratify.
And last year they did not get the contracts handed to them until after the budget hearings. So again, for decades, there's been no oversight, there's been no audit, there's been no external set of eyes on the department. And it's just simply time, it's just common fiscal good behavior, so to speak, to have a set of eyes not affiliated with that department to look into it, to come up with some corrective measures. We need some form of corrective measures.
You've been on the fire department for a long time, not just on this issue, but you've been videoing and surveilling. You think this is a fire department that has been misbehaving for a long time? This is, I mean, you have a track record. They don't like you. I don't know, I can't characterize how you feel about them, but there's a lot of evidence that you as the messenger, right?
Well, look, this is not to disparage their service. This is a fiscal conversation. This is not an emotional conversation. When your daughter gets pulled out of a burning car and saves her life, everyone deserves $1 million bonus. This is not that conversation. This is a conversation about what can the residents afford. And we're at the peak where we can no longer afford anything. 18 years of Mayor Scott Avedisian, 18 years of tax increases. We can't afford it anymore. Our schools are going to hell. We're selling off properties. We can't put a $50,000 roof on a senior citizen center, but every year the firefighters get more money. Every single year they get more money.
All right, we'll come back. A note as to whether this is a conversation that should be happening in your town as well. Stay with us. You know, I just wanted to get this in. The line item veto conversation was happening today, scheduled for 3 o'clock. We record the program early in the afternoon. I just want to slip this in for 30 seconds and then ask the question about the state and firefighters. There's no way of knowing how the hearing went. We're taping before it actually occurred, but by the time people are watching, it's already happened. Or maybe still going on, I don't know. They bury a 3 o'clock in the afternoon line item veto hearing in the House of Representatives?
Yeah, we've been scrambling for 2 days to get people to show up.
Well, paper editorialized on it today, and I mean, that's classic, though.
Yeah.
That's classic. Oh, yeah, we really support it. We're going to put it up, and we'll put it on the shelf as fast as we can possibly put it on the shelf. But you'll keep plugging away. The governor has been, what, lukewarm in her support of this?
The governor has a representative who will be testifying. I'll be testifying. A couple of public figures will also be testifying. I mean, and I'm expecting a good turnout.
Back to the firefighter situation. This is not just a ward conversation, it seems to me.
No, it's not.
East Greenwich is in the midst of it as we speak. Have you guys got any? Well, North Kingstown already figured the whole thing out, right? They already went to the 3 platoons. Any feeling as to how widespread the contractual consideration for these kinds of changes will be across Rhode Island?
Well, like I said, just based on what we did this past week and your radio show and the WPRI story, 3 separate departments have already reached out to me municipalities have reached out to me to ask, what we're doing and where it's going. So there's interest.
Bottom line, where are we going with this? I got 20 seconds in Warwick.
It's time for change. We've been riding the same boat for a long time.
But what are you doing to make that change? How are you getting this conversation into the mix?
We're giving the City Council raw data on documents that over 20 years they've never requested. They've never seen the documents. They have never analyzed the documents, and now they're going to have the documents handed to them with all the data that they need to make it a
sounds
decision.
to me like it's a stay tuned type of situation, correct?
It is.
All right. We'll be right back with our final words. Stay with us. Coming up on the program tomorrow, huh? Huh? What? Huh? Huh? Woo? What? Huh? What? Special Olympics, a special anniversary tomorrow. See you on the radio at 3 on WPRL. When? Oh? What?